Thank you, Presiding Officer. It's been an interesting opening observation from the Conservative benches. It's the first time I've heard someone like Murdo Fraser boasting that the pound in his pocket is worth less than it was before Conservative policies and actions affected it. And I welcome what he'll say in 2 years' time, when the effect of higher costs for importing components that are required for manufacturing industry in these islands will really hit home. Short-term benefit, long-term much more problematic. But Brexit is something that we should talk about in terms of the economy. It's a huge challenge to the Scottish economy, to the economy in these islands. But the one thing it will not do is inhibit this government in taking the actions that will support Scotland's further development from here on. I want to just say a few words about a few of the things in yesterday's statement from the First Minister. Before talking about banking, I remind people of my register of interests in relation to banking. I, of course, spent 30 years in banking and came into politics to improve my reputation. The Scottish National Investment Bank is something I very much support. The world of finance and of cash and of the way it works is fundamentally changing for businesses, but even more so it will for individuals. For example, in Sweden, there are now only 25 bank branches in Sweden who deal with cash, because essentially it's become a cashless society. We'll get there as well. And I think the Scottish National Investment Bank, primarily focusing on investment in the first instance, could look in the longer term at how we can support communities who are going to lose, as they are already, more and more local branches, so that the right kind of financial services there. And that often will be through technology assisted by trained people. So I hope the Investment Bank might, in the long term, look at that. The biometrics bill I very much welcome. I encourage the government to take close attention to what's happened in India with the Aadhaar system, which is an identity card system which has got 1.22 billion cardholders issued since 2009. The important point about it is that 50% or so of the cardholders are functionally illiterate. So therefore, it's an easy access system. It has many lessons for the sort of things that we might want to do in relation to biometrics. The Aadhaar card is based on retinal scan. We think about electoral reform. I hope that we can persuade the Electoral Commission, when they're doing boundary changes, to perhaps give us more granular details so we can see what houses there are at the edge of our constituency. Not a big deal. On non-domestic rates, one thing I'd like the government to work with the assessors on is how they factor in empty premises into the assessment of value of rents. Because in the northeast of Scotland, fish factories, and there are quite a lot of them, are empty. But those that are not empty, they're taking the actual rents paid. But no account is being taken of the fact that it's impossible to let other factories at the rate of rent that the ones that are occupied. So it should be across the board, and the valuers do know about the empty factories because they're looking at them as well. And that's a wee thing. And I'm going to be talking to valuers about it, because I realise the government does not control that subject, but it does provide guidance. Now, on infrastructure, I very much welcome the increased investment that is going to be in infrastructure. I hope that we'll think about whether we can support industries that are going to be particularly hard hit by the absence of people from across Europe, because people are going to go back to Europe because of the immigration rules, and perhaps help the fish processing industry increase its levels of automation, perhaps help the soft fruit industry develop new technologies for harvesting, and of course, in turn, creating new products that we can sell around the world. So I hope that these are things that the infrastructure investments might include in the consideration of things they want. But of course, it's up to the industry to come forward with proposals, and I have been talking to people in both these industries about what they might do in that regard. Now, that's middle term to long term, maybe not immediately short term, but nonetheless important for that, Presiding Officer. Now, I want to, if you'll allow me, Presiding Officer, since there's no motion, to just pick up one thing that is not economy directly, which I'm particularly interested in, and that is the announcements in relation to mental health. In 1964, for 8 months, I personally worked in mental health as a nurse. My father-in-law is a psychiatric nurse, my sister-in-law is a psychiatric nurse. So I'm absolutely clear about the value of investing in people's mental health. Diminishing in schools these early signs of mental ill health that might develop into a real, coming back to the economy, cost to the economy, but more fundamentally, something that will benefit people in Scotland, improve their lives, not just simply their wallets. Presiding Officer.